There is an immediate tonal difference between the two pitches. Despite Red Jelly arguing for a republic, they still treat the crown with both respect and sentimentality. The pitch suggests that Australia as a country needs to wean ourselves from the Queen and Mother England, thus hinting that although there has been some historical benefit to the monarchy, now is the time for Australia to independently. This is in stark contrast to Loud and Clear's pitch, which is immediately assertive, cynical, and dogmatic. Although this style grabs the viewer's attention, by coming out so strongly with an overbearing call to action, Loud and Clear give themselves very little room to tonally evolve. It is in this respect that Red Jelly shines. Their pitch builds slowly with a soft and optimistic tone, employing deliberative rhetoric to highlight the potential possibilities presented by moving away from the crown, such as our own dosh and language. However, the pitch suddenly subverts the viewer's expectations by physically ripping Queensland off the map. Red Jelly continue to focus primarily on visuals to match their pitch's tonal change. While the piece begins with the patriotic reverence to Australia, which is visually represented by a hand stroking the map in a loving manner, the ripping of Queensland off the map signifies a drastic change in visual tone. Models of divisive Queensland politicians like Kevin Rudd and Pauline Hanson are physically flicked off the map, cane toads are immediately wiped out with a hammer, and poor quality mid-strength beer 4X is eliminated. The formatting is much more varied than Loud and Clear's pitch, which relies heavily on driving their point home with bold, capital-lettered words that match their narrator's overbearing, cynical narrative. The decision to use a narrator with an American accent
Vlad the Impaler started impaling at 8 months old.
Could be interpreted as a suggestion that Australia strengthens their allegiance with the United States, but this is about the only subtle touch in Loud and Clear's pitch. Although Red Jelly could be criticised for alienating Queensland, therefore potentially losing a huge amount of support, their jarring and divisive style stirs a much more emotional and resonating chord than Loud and Clear's. Just like in the current same-sex marriage debate in Australia, or the 2016 United States presidential race, segments of the population will invariably feel alienated. But this does not mean that divisive campaigns cannot be successful, as was the case with the election of Donald Trump. Although on a small scale, the fact that the four-person panel voted in favour of Red Jelly's pitch highlights that divisiveness can still result in a successful campaign.
Red Jelly's pitch is essentially a string of red herring arguments. First, it starts off by setting ground for the many advantages of weaving away from the Queen. However, through an abrupt change of tone and music, there was a swift deviation in the argument which has now been diverted to giving Queensland the arse. The change marks an association with the Queen and Queensland and their subsequent arguments in belittling the state. The biggest problem with Red Jelly's argument is that even if Australia does become a republic, this is in no way meaning that Queensland would be cut off from Australia. In fact, it would be highly unlikely that that would be the case. Loud and Clear's pitch is also subject to a number of questionable arguments. This starts off with the claim that all that was bad was due to people that were once babies.
More than 100% of war, crime, death, and boy bands is because of people who were once babies.
Yet, weren't we all once babies? This has committed the composition and cherry-picking fallacy, in ignoring the numerous other good people who were once babies and instead deciding to only focus on the bad people, who of course were once babies, as the reasoning into labeling all babies as evil. Similarly, their bad baby argument is also a false analogy. Just because all bad people were once babies, this does not have any correlation as to Prince George growing up to be an evil baby in the future. Ultimately, the fundamental reason why Loud and Clear's pitch is inferior to Red Jelly's pitch is because of false cause and fallacy. The reason for war, crime, death cannot be sufficiently attributed to the fact that bad people were once babies, and it is also a recurring reason that makes the entire argument of Loud and Clear to fall through. Referring back to the formatting section Jack had talked about earlier on, Red Jelly's usage of visual arguments focused more on grabbing the attention of the audience as well as keeping them hooked. While showing what was being said through live action, it provides the audience with an easy-to-follow argument structure and humor to secure their engagement in the pitch. This was further cemented through the minimalistic edits as well as the smooth camera pan angles. Loud and Clear's pitch, on the other hand, took a totally different approach. There was heavy and arguably overused implementation of visual edits, which makes the video a little difficult to follow at times due to the overload in sensory information. However, it is exactly this, along with the violent and hectic illustrations, that imprints to the audience the idea that Australia would be in havoc if it does not become a republic. This works effectively in invoking a sense of chaos if Prince George was to become the baby king of Australia. Both Red Jelly and Loud and Clear's argument would not be more effective if they were an essay. In Red Jelly's case, satire is particularly effective when discussing politics. Through this short clip, the humorous nature captures the attention of the audience and provides an easier to digest argument. It does really well in getting more to talk about the clip and not so much persuade the audience as with Loud and Clear's pitch. The argument style of Loud and Clear was dogmatism and already outrageous and repetitive as it is, and it would not work very well in any written format.
Both advertisements presented by Red Jelly and Loud and Clear are no more than 1 minute long. This ensures that they maintain people's attention, as there is a huge amount of information being communicated in under a minute. The quick pace of changing topics also keeps the audience interested. If the arguments are to be extended to 30 minutes long, the audience is likely to grow bored and not be convinced as they do not pay attention. Therefore, the arguments are better left at about 1 minute long to maintain the attention of the audience. In presenting the information and arguing for a republic, Red Jelly chose to go with a more Australian way. Red Jelly influences audiences by pointing out that a republic would bring a better and more independent future to Australian people. Red Jelly applies some credible examples of politicians and beer to convince the audience that Australia would be a better place if we leave the monarchy. In contrast to the emotional and domestic approach that Red Jelly takes, Loud and Clear showed its pitch in a more direct and threatening way. Employees parcel at they start to invoke fear through images of bomb and warfare. It continues with the logic that all men who are once babies will destroy the world. Even though Loud and Clear makes its pitch more frightening, Red Jelly still stands out because its pitch has a clear logic and connects more with the Australian people themselves through humor. Red Jelly's advertisement is obviously attractive to most Australian people because the pitch tries to unite Australians by separating Queensland. People outside Australia might be those who are least convinced because most of them don't understand the anti-Queensland implication. Unlike Red Jelly, Loud and Clear uses a broader cultural context. Those who follow things like boys band will be most convinced. However, for those who do not know much about the Western world, this does not make much sense. In all, Red Jelly's speech better target Australian audience and is therefore more convincing. Red Jelly has a cultural implication that makes a lot of sense in the Australian context, in that people are highly interested in decorum. However, Loud and Clear looks like it is for everyone, not as exclusive as Red Jelly is, because Red Jelly plays on the Australian culture and it is more effective.